Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Wrestling World Talks with Dan and Mac.
We are entering the post-Valentine's Day and beginning of the waiting period between Valentine's Day and, of course, spring, as far as the seasonal type, because, Easter is going to be very late this year. Actually, it takes place on WrestleMania. Nice tie-in. It's like WrestleMania is taking place on Easter this year. So it's funny how you go into a Walmart or a CVS and you're expecting to get half-price candy, but then all of a sudden you're starting to see Easter egg stuff. It's like, guys, we got 2 months. Like, have we reached that limit now?
Because I'm not booked.
Easter now is entering the category of Christmas, because it's like immediately right after Valentine's Day, we get Easter eggs. So then we got 2 more months to wait around for the goddamn Easter bunny with those Cadbury eggs. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Daniel Burke, your host of PWW Talks, and I am ever joined by my co-host and my best friend for over 20 years, my hetero life mate, Mac. How are you this evening?
When we ended last week, I was like, yeah, we'll talk about Elimination Chamber this week. We still got another week to go.
We do. So tonight, we have decided, or I guess I've decided, because he would never decide this, that we're going to discuss the what has been going on. Well, the stuff that he doesn't want to talk about, of course, is AEW. And then, of course,
but I knew it was coming, though.
But of course, because they just came off of Grand Slam from Australia, so I'll be talking about and ranting. And then I've got some news came out today from Jonathan Coachman about what may or may not have happened between Shane McMahon and Tony Khan.
I saw that.
Only because of the fact I do not want to prove this as fact, even though PWW was already reporting it. I'm still kind of, I don't know what to believe considering the sources. It is Jonathan Coachman. He may or may not have a close relationship with Shane McMahon or knows somebody that is in touch with Shane McMahon on a consistent basis. But the news that came out today, and again, folks, I am not trying to glorify the situation. This is not a Meltzer thing where I'm trying to come out here and try to beat you with the story, beat everybody with the story.
Because I'm not booked.
And just say that this is an actual fact. I don't know if this is the case. Again, this is coming from Jonathan Coachman. His claim is that Shane McMahon and Tony Khan, of course, they had that meeting. It's been photographed. The two men have had a meeting at some point at a airport. I believe what the report is, it was in Dallas, Fort Worth. Again, I don't know exactly. But Shane McMahon and Tony Khan had a meeting, and Shane McMahon supposedly offered to buy a piece of AEW, and he wanted full creative control. And Tony Khan's response to it was ghosting Shane McMahon.
So again, hold on a second.
That's what's being reported.
So hold on a second. I think this is very telling that we're talking about this right now. So do you remember how we originally thought that Elijah, formerly known as Elias, was going to Ring of Honor?
Yes.
Apparently on TNA Impact tonight, as reported by the Pro Wrestling World on Facebook, because I'm on it right now, apparently he's at TNA.
Well, I mean, how's he going to be able to work that gimmick now? Because, of course, he always had that gimmick of WWE stands for Walk with Elias.
Yeah.
Going to be kind of do that now with TNA, really. You really can't have that acronym, I guess, there. That's going to be a little difficult to kind of come up with.
I don't know. Maybe they'll start spelling it with an A instead of an E. Who knows?
Oh, good Lord. I have to give him credit because that gimmick in NXT was terrible, but as soon as he went to the main roster, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And also the fact one of my favorite live wrestling moments was we were in Boston, and I decided, and I was in the cheap seats. I was literally in the 300s. This is the only reason I went to the TD Bank North Garden that night was because I needed to check something off the list. And that checking off the list was Brock Lesnar and it was a house show. Brock Lesnar working a house show. So that was just like, well, that's a once in a lifetime experience. But also too, it's just the fact that I had never been in a building where Brock Lesnar was performing. Never. So when I heard that, I immediately said, I'm going. And so Elias performed that night, and I don't know whether I was drunk or high, maybe a little both. But
Smoke.
what had happened is that Elias is in the center ring and he's doing his acoustic set, his little mini concert that he used to do. So I decided to yell from the 300 section as loud as I possibly can to start saying jingle. I don't know if anybody has seen the Family Guy episode where Brian has to start. He's kind of the caretaker of this old woman, and the old woman used to be like an opera singer, but she also used to sing the jingles for a lot of ads like Copper Tone, Gold Bond medicated powder, shit like that. So I was up from the 300 sections yelling what the people were yelling at this woman when she was performing the opera for the first time. I was up there yelling, play Copper Tone, play Gold Bond medicated powder. It was literally a Family Guy reference. And then I'm singing, then the nationwide insurance thing was starting to be big. So I'm just like, play nationwide insurance. Nationwide is on your side, Elias. I had the whole section laughing hysterically. Everybody is laughing. And of course, he can't hear me again because it's the 300 section. But I am trying with all my might to have him hear Copper Tone, play Gold Bond medicated powder, play National Rent-A-Car, like all this stuff, just trying to, nationwide is on your side. Just trying whatever I could to get people to laugh. And of course, the whole section was laughing. Of course, I always do this in a house show. It's always in a house show. It's never TV. It's never like when it's televised, because of course the other famous incident that is brought up quite a bit, Mac was there for this, was the ECW house show after the ECW rebranding back in 2006, when Ariel comes out, who was the valet for Kevin Thorne, who was the vampire character. And so Ariel does this like entrance where she's like laying like a bat and opening the ropes at the same time. And so, of course, I had to chime in with the famous chant of future ex-wife, which this now began as a few people just chanting future ex-wife. Within 2 minutes, the whole building's doing it. The whole building is chanting future ex-wife at this woman. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, it's just standing there in glee. We're front row. And it's just like, that was, the whole building is just chanting future ex-wife. I have done it. I have finally been able to reach these people for one night and understand we're all on the same page. And that was, there is nothing better. TV is fun. Don't get me wrong. There have been some fun TV tapings and episodes I have been to. I was there the night that Shawn Michaels hit Shelton Benjamin with the famous springboard super kick, which I remember being there for it. And I had to watch the replay of it right after because it happened so quick.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they put it up on the Titantron and you're just like, holy shit. Like, but that was, I've been there for some great moments, and I've been there for some really kind of fun moments. Even my first show, which I love it with Brian Alvarez, because he likes to go on and review a lot of old WWF shows and the part of their podcasting network and that stuff. But he used to say, God, I'd hate to be someone that had to go to like one of those 6-hour like Superstar Wrestling Challenge and primetime tapings. That must have been torture. It wasn't. I had a goddamn blast at those tapings. When I was a younger kid, they were perfect. Got to see Hulk Hogan wrestle like twice at a show. Got to see Macho Man a couple of times a show. Same thing with like The Undertaker. Your favorite wrestlers were coming out 2 or 3 times a night. It was fun. You had a great time. And so Alvarez could kiss my ass on that one. There's a lot of things that Alvarez could kiss my ass on, but that's especially one of them, because it's just like, you're going to pretty much knock my childhood for what reason? Just because it's just like, that's torture. Because that exactly wasn't your thing, right? Like, because it wasn't in Japan, or it wasn't what Dave told you to like, and things like that. So yeah.
It might I don't know. It might be 0.
Yeah. How many tapings have you attended to, Dave?
Yeah.
How many tapings have you attended?
Seriously.
Yeah.
I was gonna say was I want to go back to AEW for a second, the whole coach thing, which I know there's a lot more to talk about with AEW that we have to get to, but part of me believes him. You know, and I know there's gonna be people out there like, oh, why? Blah. It's like, because nothing happened. That's why. Nothing ever came of that meeting that anybody could actually think of, aside from the picture of them in the airport in some kind of waiting room, and that's it. That's the only thing we got out of that.
And the Young Bucks having that picture with them at an airport as well, which fed more speculation. Which, I mean, I think I wouldn't have been surprised if Shane decided to do it on his own as well, because he feels like he kind of got shafted out of the TKO situation, which, to be quite honest, part of it was his own doing. The Royal Rumble 2022 was a complete disaster, which he was supposed to be the producer of. And you can look at that as one of the top 5 or top 10 worst Royal Rumbles in the history of the event. And he was the guy that was the producer of it. So that's a kind of a hard thing to kind of carry over. And another thing that you came up with, which is part of your creative concepts, was Raw Underground during the COVID era, where they were in the Thunderdome, when you had pretty much like MMA street fights for like a couple of segments of the show, which I understood why you needed to do that, because you're just trying to come up with things, like grasp at straws a little bit to try to come up with something. But it was a disaster. It only lasted like 2 or 3 weeks, and then people were just like, yeah, nobody gives a shit. So the last 2 creative things that Shane McMahon has done in WWE have been, at least it's been publicized, have been flops. And I wonder if, now people will say, I wonder if Tony is thinking that. I wonder if that's why Tony didn't bring him in. Tony didn't bring him in because he didn't want to give up the fucking book. That's 100% what it is.
Well, I think
he does not want to give up the book.
I think it goes beyond that, though. Part of what Coach said is that he wanted some kind of equity in the company too, and I don't think that Tony wanted to give that up either. And not for nothing, if Tony did or did not, who's got the final say? Daddy.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly who has the final say. And I'm sure that and the fact is that as an organization and how they have been run, and it's not just AEW, it's how they've run the Jaguars, it's how they run Fulham, It's how they run their other businesses. It's one guy at the top, and that's Shad Khan. And he's been the guy, the decision maker, the final word, the final say. And that's how AEW is, in my opinion, is run, because it's his money. And maybe they're now more self-sustainable because of the income that's coming in with this Time Warner deal, which there's still a lot of questions that I have of how viable this is going to be and how long this thing is going to last. But that's neither here nor there, which I'm sure, again, people are sitting here and being like, oh, Dan's talking negative about AEW. It's very hard to, and I'm not one of those people either. Like the whole Ring story from this week, I'm not even going to bring that up because I could give a rat's ass. And the fact is, too, is that WWE does the same thing. They go to other companies to see if they can get a ring from them. It's a common practice. So I'm not going to kill AEW for it. But the fact that we had major reporters and major websites even giving this time, you can't talk about the booking decisions of the show. You can't criticize that, but you can criticize the ring size and the fact that it looked janky. We're going to criticize that, but we're not going to talk about the other decisions that were made on the card. We're just going to talk about that and point that out. Oh, the ring looked weird.
So hold on. Let's segue here for a second. Let's actually talk about it just for a minute, right? You might not want to talk about it, but I kind of do, because at the end of the day, it did look a little janky, right? I've seen the reports, I've heard them where it's like, oh, it's 18 by 18, and that's what TNA is. Okay, great. Here's part of why it looked janky. There's three reasons to why it looked janky, right? First of all, the apron did not look like it was properly sized. Okay? It just didn't. I'm sorry. The ring apron looked a little bit oversized. If it wasn't, it wasn't, but my eyes, that's how I saw it. On top of that, part of the reason it looks janky too, and I saw this on a side-by-side comparison between the TNA ring and the AEW ring. The TNA outside the ring area is probably like a two-person width, right? Give or take. It's maybe like 5 to 6 feet. This had a huge outside ring area. And I think that's part of why it looks so janky. And there are going to be people like, oh, well, that's normal. First of all, is it though? And second of all, maybe they were doing that to make it look like it's more of a full house because you have to sell less seats doing it that way. Just saying. And then the last thing I'll say here about the ring, the ring in general is, I get it. Like you said, Dan, like they hire outside sources sometimes, especially when you're doing shows in another country. You're going to go elsewhere, so you don't have to pay the shipping costs for your own ring. But man, what was up with those steps? What was up with that?
It was not perfect by any means. And I'm not going to, but that is the last thing I really was going to criticize them about from that show. Because of the fact that, I mean, the only thing that kind of bothered me is that, you took the production here. Like, you took the cameras, you took the other rigging. You can't just fit the ring on another thing unless they used all that equipment. Like, logistics-wise, this is why going to Australia is not cost-effective. And he can sit there and tell you all you want, oh, we got one of the biggest gates in the company's history.
No, you didn't.
Before you left, before you left the door, maybe, yeah. On paper, yes. On paper, yes. It shows we made one of the biggest gates in history. Well, here's the thing: you charged that was carried by the people that bought the show for the stadium, right? They bought the stadium tickets. And then he lowered the prices when he went to the arena, and then he started doing BOGO deals. So that's why it looked full, because he did BOGO deals. The reason why that the gate was
just real
as
quick.
high as it was.
Real quick, for the uninitiated, buy one, get one.
Yes. Thank you.
Not everybody gets your slag, Dan.
Yes. But we got buy one, get one deals to fill the building when the stadium people who bought the show for the stadium show are pretty much the ones that carried the gate, because you didn't want to go out there and tell everybody that this thing from moment one that was even announced was an unmitigated disaster. And the ring looked bad, and you re-put your show on there. Luckily, nobody really got seriously hurt. I know Buddy Matthews suffered an injury, but
Which it wasn't even his
that
fault,
happens.
really. Yeah.
That happens. Like, that's just a freak thing of just. But nowhere else on the show did anybody really get seriously hurt and things of that nature.
Yep.
The problems that I had with the show, first and foremost, you have Cope challenging Jon Moxley at the next pay-per-view, I think on March 9th. Yeah, it's on March 9th.
I believe so, yeah.
Which I think is, I don't know what the name of it is called. It might Dynasty or something. I don't know.
I'll look it up as you're talking. Go ahead.
Right. But this this show is going to be in Los Angeles. It's going to be at the formerly known as the Staples Center. And the main event is going to be Cope versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship.
It's Revolution, by the way.
Thank you. So, Grand Slam was a tag team match between Cope and Jay White against Jon Moxley and Claudio. You would think, being a tag team match, that either, mind you, I understand you don't want to beat Moxley, because that's fine. I understand that. But Claudio would take the fall, or Jay White would take the fall with a fuck finish, or same thing with Cope. No, that's not how they did it. Cope lost to Jon Moxley with Jon Moxley finish clean. Let me repeat that. Cope, the number one contender for the AEW World Championship for the next pay-per-view against Jon Moxley, lost to Jon Moxley in a tag team match with his finish clean. So I ask you, why the fuck do you want to watch that pay-per-view to see that match? Because now you've already seen it. You've already seen it, and Cope's not winning. It's not going to happen. So why are you going to buy the pay-per-view? Why are you going to waste the money? And don't give me this bullshit either of like, oh, it's on Max. Well, supposedly it's not going to be, if you're a Max subscriber, you'll be able to get it. It's supposedly you're a Max subscriber. You gotta pay for your Max every month, and then you gotta pay for the pay-per-view separately, but you get a discount. Pretty much it'll probably just take the price of the Max off of the bill, and then you're just gonna pay the whatever the hell it is on top of it.
I don't know.
Which, whatever. I mean, yeah, you're paying a discount, so to speak. But why do you want to watch the show? Like, why? And because you had Cope lose to Jon Moxley right before he's supposed to be challenging for him at a pay-per-view in the main event in the Los Angeles market.
The thing is, they've done this in the past. Like every company has done this to a certain extent, right? Like
To an extent.
do a tag team before. They'll do something, right? Like standoffs, tag teams, whatever. Like we've seen it in the past before with either company, whether it be them or WWE or TNA or WCW. Like it's been a thing. The problem that I had with it, aside from them losing clean, as it were, it didn't do anything. Like, first of all, they called it a Brisbane brawl, which I was just like, what are you doing?
Yes.
But on top of that, this should have been a Wednesday or a Wednesday night show. I was going to say Wednesday or Friday, but then I kind of corrected myself. But should have been a Wednesday show, not a Collision 2.0 show, as it were, with Grand Slam Australia. That part kind of got me. But as I look at the rest of the card, because I only remembered this match and maybe two other ones. I couldn't remember the other two. It didn't feel like a big time show that it potentially should have been. And I get it. Like, oh, it's on a pay-per-view. Okay, yeah, I get that.
It was supposed to be a pay-per-view. I don't give a shit what Tony says.
I agree.
I don't care. That was supposed to be booked as a pay-per-view, not as a television special. And you're gonna draw a house at a stadium of 60-something thousand people, and you're not putting it on pay-per-view. You're dumb. And I think that he, and two, I think the scheduling of it, because I don't think he ever took into effect that, oh, wait, the NBA fucking All-Star game is this weekend. And by the time he already booked everything, it was way too late. And
well, let me ask you a question. Let me cut it right here. Is that on him or is that on Time Warner for not being like,
that's on him.
Hey?
That's on him.
You think so?
That is completely on. You should automatically know, especially too the fact that he's in analytics with sports and things like that.
That's true.
Like he should have known and looked at it in February. Okay, I'm not going to book this. I'm not going to book this that weekend. Okay, but usually every President's Day weekend is the All-Star game. The NBA has been smart enough to kind of have that on lockdown and realize, yeah, this is the All-Star game, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that in 2027, it is supposed to be that the Super Bowl is going to fall on February 14th, which
great.
I believe President's Day is on the 15th, so the next day. So now the Super Bowl, which might become a normal thing after this, if they feel that things are successful, even though the NFL is kind of with the Super Bowl, they want people to go to work the next day because it's such a hot topic issue around the office, the water cooler and things like that.
2027.
You know, that the whole water. Yes.
So I just looked it up. It'll be February 14th, 2027 at SoFi. So, yeah. And
knowing my luck, the fucking Patriots will be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Let's see when President's Day 2027 is. Third Monday in February.
February 15th.
I don't know. I got to look at the calendar now. Making me do all this work right now? Come on, man. It's not fair.
Hey.
It will be, because it'll be the 1st, the 8th, and then the 15th. It'll be the third Monday in February, so it'll be the Super Bowl on Valentine's Day and then President's Day.
Jesus Christ, the amount of red wine that's going to be drank that day is going to be fucking incredible.
I just... I hope I'm single for that.
At least all
year.
all the single guys will have something to do that day. It'll be like, come on over and watch the Super Bowl.
No, it's not even something to do, Dan. It's like, I don't want to have a fight with a girlfriend or a spouse over the fact that The Super Bowl was on Valentine's Day?
No, you don't.
Oh
You don't
my
want to
God.
have that fight.
How many marriages are going to end on that day, I wonder?
I don't know. Well, you know what also is going to affect it too? The fact that it is President's Day weekend. So the February vacation is also going to play an effect. Because especially if you have kids, that wife's going to want to go to fucking Disney or like travel elsewhere, especially live in the Northeast. Because let me tell you what last weekend brought in this fucking area here in the Northeast of New England. So Sunday, we ended up getting snow. And then that was Saturday night, and the Sunday morning it was snow. And then Sunday morning it turned to freezing rain. And then it's freezing rain and rain for about 12 more hours. So, and we have a rock salt shortage in this area.
Great.
So half the streets on Monday were literal ice rinks. And now they're finally just starting to thaw out. And this weekend we'll be bringing 40-degree temperatures, which should go also into next week, which will make the streets a lot more passable. But for a couple of days here, even to leave the house, you were taking a risk. Luckily, we had enough rock salt to get where we are here, the property that I live on, because as I always tell people, rock salt is cheaper than lawyers. So when you're dealing with commercial property, you want to be able to make sure you have enough. Because, again, rock salt is cheaper than lawyers, folks. But yeah, that was the garbage that we had to deal with in this area as far as weather is concerned. And this would have definitely affected travel for people that were going to, I don't know, driving distance or something of that nature, like a Great Wolf Lodge or you're not going to the Cape this time of year. So like a Great Wolf Lodge or something you can drive to that, or you're even taking the risk of traveling to Disney or Universal this time of year, which I don't know why you would. Going to Disney during vacation weeks, it's just, no, you don't want to do it. I went one day, I think I went to Disney. It was the day before New Year's, I think in 2004. Oh. And yes, now here was the other problem that happened. So we had rented like a minivan caravan situation. So my niece, we'd opened the back trunk and we were getting stuff out of it. My niece closed the door on my head.
Oh.
And I was concussed. Not treated, but I knew I was concussed. I was seeing stars. And that was the predicament that I was in. Maybe had a concussion going to fucking Disney. And it was during vacation week. I have never wanted I was praying I got hit by the monorail. I'm like, just praying I got hit by the fucking monorail or Dumbo or something. I'm just wanting it to end. But yeah. Now that's part of the issue. The fact that you have the Super Bowl, which could be going on a 3-day weekend, which could be affecting people's February vacations and also Valentine's Day. Wow. They're really taking the risk on this one. They're really taking a risk.
Listen, man. I think you're gonna see some marriages or relationships end that day. I'm just telling you.
I mean, it is a distinct possibility that we're going to see relationships end that day because, what do you do? What do you do? Oh God, if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, oh my God!
I'm glad you picked up on that one.
Oh, boy. I mean, Lord knows I don't want him back in there because
Oh, I know, but
the last couple of weeks have been great.
Man.
I love
It's
it.
like Cooper DeJean, and there are so many players that from that Super Bowl that just will live in infamy forever because of the fact that it's like they were able to stop the Chiefs from winning a third straight Super Bowl. It's like, yes, you guys are all fantastic. I love you all. Thank you so much. But AEW is in a real kind of weird position because they have this whole thing going where I feel like I'm being yelled at from the other room.
I don't know. Are you? I can't.
Are you coming in? What is it, honey? What is it? You're interrupting things. What is it, baby? What's the matter?
Oh, shit.
Honey, I'm recording.
Yeet!
I don't know what the hell she's doing.
I mean, what the fuck is that?
She's been
Like, what is
she's
that?
been like groaning. She's been groaning for like 5 minutes. And I'm just like, what the hell is she groaning about? And now she can't even tell me what the hell's wrong. Why are you crying? Stop. You're going to get me in trouble.
Oh, shit.
Honey, what is it?
It's like she knows we're talking about Valentine's Day in 2 years from now, and she's like getting annoyed about it already.
She's getting prepared. What is it?
Proactive annoyance.
Honey, what is it? What is it? You're tired? Is that why you're groaning?
Ooh, man.
What do you want me to do with that, man? What? All right. Folks, we're going to take a slight intermission so I can put Stephanie to bed. Okay. So the wife has been put to bed. Where was I? Oh, yes. So the Tony Khan thing, booking, of course, in Australia, and the situation with Cope and John Moxley, as that is going to be the main event of the next pay-per-view, even though at the finish of Grand Slam, like I just talked about it, again, it's just another thing that it's like, why do I want to get behind this? Why am I going to spend money to want to watch this? And that's what I feel like this show kind of also brought to the table for the most part, because there were other situations, including, of course, the famous, the fact that Harley Cameron, who came into this event white hot, and really had been able to get Mercedes into a feud that people actually cared about for the first time since she signed with the company almost a year ago. Every feud that she has been in, and every match I feel like that she has been in, with the exception of a couple, have been underwhelming. And I feel like Harley Cameron, especially with the puppet Monet situation, was able to get this thing over with her vignettes and also everything that she was doing with the puppet. She was right when she said, I have made you the most relevant that you ever are with me stuck in your gut, with me having your hand up your ass. And it's true. That's how I kind of felt like with this whole feud. And this is also the time for Mercedes to say, okay, maybe it's time to finally make another star instead of just the haha, I win.
I don't.
And
think
what
she
happened?
Has that in her though.
No, she doesn't. This is why, in my opinion, the way that I look at Mercedes Moné and John Moxley, I look at them right now in the same category they do with Hulk Hogan and WCW, except the difference between Hulk Hogan and WCW and these two people is Hulk Hogan actually drew money. This situation has not really drawn any money. Neither of them, neither the Death Riders or Mercedes Moné in this reign that she's had. The fact is I still think that the women's division is supremely underrated with some of the talent they have, but is also extremely underutilized. And
I mean,
the
you
proof
say
is in the
that,
pudding.
but they had 2 out of 5 matches.
Yes, but one of them was also for Toni Storm, and that was kind of her home, and it's her home country. So there's that whole.
Well, hold on. You say that, but that's the same for Harley. That's the same for Buddy.
No, I know.
I
completely understand that. But and I respect the fact too that they headlined the show with Mariah May and Toni Storm, which obviously they should have, because that was the real hot angle coming into this thing.
Right.
I do think that they did a major disservice to Mariah May in her championship reign, because she was pretty much just treading water up until this point. She wasn't even factored in. She was on fucking Collision half the time. Mercedes was on the A show on Dynamite every week, but then Mariah May, nobody was giving a shit up until the Toni Storm thing happened. Until rookie Toni Storm came back, and then they started to do the angle. The turn, of course, had happened a couple of weeks back on Collision, which everybody had talked about how great it was, even though really nobody was watching it because it happened on Saturday night on Collision, which has been kind of the trending theme, because this whole event took place in a death spot. 10:30 at night, right out. Yeah, you got a great lead in with the All-Star game. It wasn't even the All-Star game, mind you. It was the All-Star event, like the award, not the
skills, the celebrity,
the skills competition.
Like
correct.
Yeah.
The hall of the skills competition, the 3-point contest, and then the dunk contest.
Yeah.
Which the 3-point contest is a big deal, because that's where most of the league is going to now. Is the 3 points. So it's not the dunk contest. I feel like it's just, that's done by not stars anymore, just like these random guys you've never heard of before.
Anybody, really, yeah.
Yes. It's not like you're talking people like on the G League that are doing that event. And it's like, okay. But they had a good lead in with that. And so, of course, I think they just drew over 500K for the total of viewers. But by the time they got to Tony and Mariah, I think the ratings had dropped. They were under like 300K, maybe even under 250K at one point for that match.
It was also on a worst time. Like you said, it's after the NBA
It's just terrible. It's in a death spot.
Late.
It's in a complete death spot. Yeah, they main evented the show, which I guess it would have meant more if they main evented if it was a pay-per-view, but it wasn't a pay-per-view. And yeah, they put the belt back on Tony, which was the right thing to do, because Toni Storm is, without question, probably one of the best female characters in all of wrestling right now. And I'm not talking about just wrestling ability. Yes. But I'm just talking about characters in the way that it's played. I'm not talking about like wrestling ability and things of that nature, because yes, there are better, I think, performers, in-ring performers than Toni Storm is, but the character, I think, is top notch. And so I agree with them putting the belt back on her. It was a big moment, because it was in front of her home crowd. I think it would have been a bigger moment had it been a pay-per-view, but what can you do? The show, you got a 16-hour tape delay for the show. A 16-hour tape delay. Why didn't you just have it before the All-Star game? You can't talk to TNT to be like, look, can we just do it on Saturday afternoon before the All-Star events? Your ratings probably would have been better. You probably would have been able to at least try to get a pull. But of course, you're at their mercy because you're with this organization now with Time Warner that I'm sure is pulling the strings and pretty much telling you, hey, like, you're going to be put on when we can put you on. And that's pretty much how it is. We would rather play the Meg on than have you guys. They just rather play some movie from 20 years ago than anything that AEW is putting out in the middle of the afternoon. It's like, oh, we got our Law and Order marathon going on then. We can't have that disrupted with AEW stuff. No, we can't do that. Not even like SVU or like Criminal Intent. It's the regular Law and Order. You know, it's we can't have that interrupted. No, like, well, it's the same episodes. No, but hey, we can't. Can't have that interrupted. And that's
so. Hold on, just real quick, because obviously there's that time differential, right? And we talked about this before when they did Elimination Chamber in Australia last year. Right now, just for sake of argument, the current time as we are recording this around 9:30 in the evening on Thursday, the current time in Brisbane, Australia, which is where this event was, it's 12:30 p.m. the next day, right? So why couldn't they just do something like that, right? Where it's like, okay, you record this on a Friday night, because again, if you think about it, it's Thursday, right? Nobody shows anything, whatever else, what have you. And then they air it on that Friday night on TBS, right? They give them the time slot back for one night. They do it that way. Or to your point, as you mentioned, why not have it go on before the NBA All-Star events, right? Like they could have done things here, or argument's sake, like you said, make it an actual fucking pay-per-view.
exactly. Exactly.
There were options.
There were options on the table to try, oh, we did a good gate. No, you didn't. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to people and saying that you did a good gate because you didn't. You didn't do a good gate. You got it was a stadium show.
Let's clarify, right? So you're right. It's a stadium show. So you did a good gate for the secondary venue because you couldn't sell out of a stadium show.
Yes.
And the fact that ticket sales, period, really, I guess I'll say. But
there is no way they'll go back next year. If they go back next year, I'll be shocked. Because this is going to be a money loser for him. I guarantee it. WCW, they sold out their tour down in Australia back in the year 2000.
WWE, and they sold out the stadium show down there last year.
WCW lost money during that tour. And they sold out almost every single night. So it's just a money loser. It's hard. It's hard for some reason. There's a market that doesn't support it. Number one, they also went to like the third market as in Australia is concerned. They could have went to Sydney or Melbourne and done a lot better, but they didn't. And they went to wherever they were, and it just was like the number 3 or number 4 market.
Maybe Perth then at that point.
Right.
I'm just guessing. I don't know the logistics of which is the bigger markets there, but if it's not Sydney, then obviously after that, I would imagine is like Brisbane and Perth and other places like that. So that's my guess. But either way, kind of to your point though, it's like it is hard to make money because you have to pay a lot of airfare for staffing, right? Not just the wrestlers, but the camera guys, the backstage guys. You have to pay to ship all of that equipment over because, like AEW may have rented the ring from another wrestling promotion down there, which is great for them. But you still got to ship all the cameras. You got to ship a ton of the pyro, I'm sure, too. I don't know the logistics of what is going to pass through customs and what isn't. But at the end of the day, like, okay, if WCW lost money on this and they went to a third market and you are very much akin to WCW, sorry, Tony, but you are, and you look at just the fact that you tried to get a stadium show, you had a downgrade because your ticket sales were weak. And like I mentioned earlier when we talked about the ring, the area outside the ring is huge. That's
Yes.
half of why it looks so weird in those pictures, because you're looking at maybe a smaller ring. We don't know, regardless of speculatory news reports. And all
My
that
guess
stuff.
is it was probably a ring for a training facility or a ring or a school.
That's my guess. Yeah.
That would probably be my guess because of the specifications, because it was smaller, and so that would. Who knows? They probably got it from they probably just drove by and were like looking at someone's backyard and said, "Oh, we'll get that like backyard wrestlers kids one." I don't know.
I mean, I don't either.
Joke.
My point is though, it's a situation where at the end of the day, like, it looked weird, and for all intents and purposes, again, no matter how much he's going to save on the fact that he doesn't have to ship the ring and he just has to borrow one, fine, whatever. It's still a loser. And I didn't even know this until I actually looked up Grand Slam on Wikipedia, but apparently Global Wars Australia was like the next day for Ring of Honor.
Right. And it was kind of the same tone that I heard people say when Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. Imagine winning. Imagine spending $10,000 and seeing Jey Uso in the main event at WrestleMania, where people are just like, imagine spending $1,700 to see Kenny Omega and you're seeing Ring of Honor. Like,
I mean, you got I don't know, dude. Like, I'm actually looking at the card for the Ring of Honor show, and I'm actually more engaged with the Ring of Honor show.
It was. They did not give people a reason to want to come back next year, like as an audience member. There were people that were hoping it was going to get. I saw it online. People that bought tickets for the stadium show, and they wanted their tickets to get They wanted the show to get canceled so that way they could get their money back.
Yeah,
that's what they really wanted. I've never seen anybody say that going into an event. I never even thought that going to an event. Oh, I hope this thing gets canceled. Just because of, but that was very telling to me. I think that I wouldn't say they killed the market, but I don't know why you would want to go back as a fan and as a promotion, because I guarantee you didn't make any money. I guarantee it was a money loser, and I don't think you did enough. I don't think you brought enough to the table for people to want to come back. Yeah, they saw Tony Storm win the title. Great. But did they see John Moxley defend the title? Did they see somebody defend the TNT title? Did they see somebody? Who is even the TNT champion right now? I don't even know. That's how much of
I don't even know
how much
either,
I don't care about the promote. You got Kenny Omega wrestling. It's not a singles match. It's a tag team match. It's all this stuff.
Such a weird team up between him and Ospreay against Fletcher and Takashita. Like, what?
Well, yeah, the Fletcher thing, though, I understand that because Ospreay and him have been feuding.
Yeah, it's just weird though to me.
And pretty much just setting up Kenny and Takashita so that way Kenny could beat Takashita and then face Okada at All In, so that way they can merge the Continental title and then the International title.
So hold on, right? So here are your AEW champions. Okay.
Yeah.
So she already mentioned Moxley and Tony Storm. I'm not gonna go through that. Mercedes Moné for your TBS champion. We all know that.
Yes.
Apparently, your tag team champions are the Hurt Syndicate.
Which I know that. I
actually did not know that.
Yes.
The international champion is Takashita.
Yep.
Your continental champion is Okada.
Okay.
Your trios champion is the Death Riders.
Yes.
So, whatever. And then the TNT champion is Daniel Garcia.
Oh my God, I forgot he was champion.
Oh, I know.
I remember he won it, but then I completely lost track. And I know
I can't believe
I'm not even.
it.
God, he's done nothing since he won the title.
That's my point. That's why
I haven't seen him barely on TV. It's just.
So speaking of people that are on TV, right? So we talked about the card a little bit. We didn't go through all the matches. We're not going to. But here are some of the arguments I'm going to make for people that they could have had on this show, right? So Adam Cole, Hangman, which I know you don't like Hangman, but still, he's one of the stars. Big Bill, Ricochet, Billy Gunn, Buddy Matthews was there. FTR, potentially. Jericho was on the Ring of Honor show. Let's see who else. Dustin was on the Ring of Honor show. Let's see. What are the Dark Order guys, obviously. Keith Bree, I guess. Who else?
I don't know if he's medically cleared.
I don't think he is either, still.
The Adam Cole thing is just frustrating.
Briscoe. Yeah, the Adam Cole thing is frustrating. I agree. MJF, another one.
You probably don't want to travel.
Yep. Obviously, I mentioned it too, actually. Hurt Syndicate wasn't there. Orange Cassidy is another one. Let's see. Samoa Joe, which that's another whole can of worms we didn't even talk about. Sting is still on their roster page, which I find very odd, by the way.
Yeah, considering he's retired.
Yeah. So women. There's a ton of women that we haven't seen on TV, period. Right? Abaddon, Anna Jay, Britt Baker, Deanna Purrazzo, Jamie Hayter. Like, none of these were there. I think Julia Hart's in Ring of Honor now.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Nyla Rose, but I think Nyla Rose was on the Ring of Honor show, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember.
She was also on the Jericho cruise. I saw she was on the cruise for the Jericho cruise.
Okay. No idea what's up with Ruby Soho. I don't remember the last time I even saw her at this point.
Prego. I think she had a kid.
Okay. That would explain that. Soraya, obviously, is another one. Sky Blue. Just Thunder Rosa. Like...
Was on Dynamite last night in a very embarrassing segment.
Who?
Thunder Rosa.
Oh, yeah.
I sent you that clip earlier with the chair. That was
her.
horrendous.
I didn't even pay attention to it.
That was horrendous. It was horrendous.
But
I think I think again, either what happened with that segment was it wasn't communicated to her what was going on, or the talent was just going into business for themselves and completely fucking because they didn't back. Here she is. She's coming into the ring with a chair. And it's two girls, and they're just not backing down from her at all. So Thunder Rosa looked like a complete fucking idiot, and nobody gave a shit. So I don't know if that has something to do with the supposed and constant backstage heat that Thunder Rosa, and
I thought it was.
It seems like it's. It is so unwarranted. Just hearing about these things with her, it's just constant because it's just every time that I see her on social media and on her YouTube channel, she seems like a decent, really nice human being. And it just seems like that for some fucking reason, everybody in the AEW women's roster has to just shit on the poor girl. From Britt Baker on down, that whole All Access AEW show that they had where it was backstage, all Britt Baker did in every episode was just take a shit on Thunder Rosa constantly. It's been so frustrating how they've treated her as a talent, and it just looked like that again this week with two more women going to business for themselves against her, and it's just for what fucking reason are we doing this, guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I get it from the perspective that she was, women's champion, shouldn't want to drop the belt when she got injured. I don't know how long the injury was supposed to be at that point. It is what it is. But I mean, same token, that's also a Tony thing. Tony could have been No, you drop.
No,
it.
take the title off her. Like it just he refuses to make a hard decision in that company. He delegates, I think, to people that have to make the decision for him. Because they did it with CM Punk. He didn't want to make the CM Punk decision.
I was thinking the same thing.
He did not want to fire CM Punk. There's no fucking way he wanted to fire CM Punk.
Oh, that's
But
Daniel McDanielson.
I don't even think that, like, that was a complete legal thing of just them being like, look, like, it's obvious he doesn't want to be here. Like, what the fuck? And Tony could have avoided the situation 3 months earlier, but just cutting him loose. And he just didn't do it.
I think there is just overall, first of all, with him especially, but also with the rest of them, just zero accountability. Just zero. Like he 100% could have squashed that stuff months prior between CM Punk and the Bucks. He chose not to. You say what you want. Oh, he's not cleared, and these people got fined and all this other stuff. No, they didn't. Because what happens later? You have guys like Tony Schiavone going up to CM Punk and being like, "Hey, can you go talk to Jack Perry?" And clearly that worked, because what happens months later at All In? Bullshit. Just more bullshit. And where is the accountability from Tony? Oh, I feared for my life. Why? What was so devastating to you that you feared for your life? Because CM Punk put him in a choke to, like, get him away from him? Like, I don't get it. Like,
all these reports that they said he lunged at him and all that stuff. Yes, monitors got knocked over because that's what happened to Tussles. The only reason he lunged at him was to get in his face to be like, I fucking quit. That wasn't a lunge. That was him sticking his face at him and yelling at him face to face saying, I'm done. Fuck you. That's pretty much what that was.
At the end of the day, it's like he has to take accountability, and he has to take responsibility for the things that, whether they go right or go wrong, he is responsible. And when things are good, things are good. But when things are bad, things are bad. And you have to be able to adapt to that situation. And I don't think he can. And I think he just proves that continuously for me. I listen, I've been on some of these Facebook pages lately, not just the Pro Wrestling World, by the way, but other ones too. And, the opinions are just all over the place. Whether it be about Tony, whether it be about WWE, whether it be about this wrestler or that wrestler. And at the end of the day, like, we've said it so many times on this show, like, watch what you want to watch, right? Just leave it at that. If you don't watch a certain product, keep it out of your mouth. Let it go. Who cares? If somebody else wants to watch that product, good for them. If they want to talk about it in a forum, good for them. If you don't want to be involved in the conversation because you don't like the product, shut your trap. Like, just seriously. But the things that I see, it's like, WWE is still bad. Oh, well, CM Punk's a traitor, which, got a couple of those on our end. Oh, Tony doesn't do this to these guys, and like all these varying opinions. And it's like, okay, cool, but you know what? It depends what you want to watch. Even now, right? Like, if you want to watch entertainment, you're going to go to WWE. If you want to watch more fast-paced wrestling, you're probably going to go to AEW. All that's fine, but at the end of the day, you have to see that there's a difference. And I know we talked about the ring, we talked about the ticket sales and all this stuff. That stuff matters. Because if you like that product so much, you might want to go help them, because they're not going to be around in 5 years.
We could be in a position in the next 5 years, in the next 10, where WWE is the only major wrestling promotion again, because I look at New Japan Pro Wrestling. They are in dire straits. I look at All Japan. I look at Noah. Noah's doing all right. But that's why I think WWE is kind of working with a lot of these companies too, to kind of be like, look, we need to work with some of them because we don't know what the business is going to look like, because of the fact that when Tony started AEW, he killed the independent circuit. Ring of Honor was hot as hell in 2018. So is New Japan Pro Wrestling. Tony starts AEW, takes the top talent from both Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling in one fell swoop. I mean, New Japan was in a position in 2018. They even had a United States Championship because they did a show at the Cow Palace that was broadcasted live on Access TV.
Yeah.
It was main evented by Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega for the New Japan, for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Yep. The reason for that is because of the fact that they believed that they were going to be able to do national expansion, and it was coming. I sensed it, especially after All In. After All In, I was just like, New Japan is going to, and then all of a sudden, the end of the year, the beginning of January, rumors began to swirl. And all of a sudden, these guys aren't staying with New Japan. They're not staying with Ring of Honor. Also, at the end of the year, Ring of Honor and New Japan had sold out Madison Square Garden for 2019 WrestleMania weekend, because WrestleMania was held in New Jersey that year. And so WrestleMania weekend, they had sold out Madison Square Garden. Unfathomable. But it was on the backs of Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and all four would go to AEW at the end. Essentially, as soon as Wrestle Kingdom was over, essentially the peak of Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling had culminated. That was it. Because all those guys left and AEW became what it became. And in the wake of all of that, within 3 years, Ring of Honor is absorbed by All Elite Wrestling. Within 5 years, New Japan is in such a position where they have had so many presidential changes in the last couple of years. Like, they didn't fully really recover from COVID, which I don't think any Japanese wrestling promotion really has, to be quite honest with you. Stardom is in the same position. They're under the same umbrella with New Japan. It is not good for a lot of the promotions that have been around. I mean, New Japan has been around since 1972.
Yep.
And as of right now, they are under a real stressful position of, what are we doing here? They might have another mass exodus. I don't know if Zack Sabre Jr. is re-signed. They have lost so much talent in the last 3 years, especially. I mean, when Okada left, that was a major red flag. Because Okada was like their John Cena.
Really was.
And was the flagship of that company. And for him to leave, that was a telling sign of me of just like, what is going on? And mind you, I understand that Tony pays a lot of money, but you got to understand that Okada's wife is also like a national celebrity in the country of Japan. And Okada has a tremendous reputation. Like, he is considered an absolute god among men like a god among men in Japan. In this country, everybody looks at him and is just like, oh, he's the guy that's this bitch. And
Shut up, bitches.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's a national treasure, and he's got great comedic timing and a lot of the stuff that he's been doing lately. And I honestly think it is hilarious, like the stuff that he has done. Has he been Okada that was Okada in New Japan? No, because he doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to work strong style the way he did in that company. The fact is that he shouldn't, because it doesn't call for it. The situation doesn't call for it. If he went to WWE, however, I think Okada would be the national perception in professional wrestling in the United States. Okada would be held in a much different light. But that I could say that also about Kenny Omega. I could say that about a bunch of guys in that company right now. New Japan, WWE, AEW, TNA. There's a bunch of guys.
I don't know.
I think that you could sit there and say who could translate over.
I think they all could. It's just the problem is with the guys you're mentioning. I think they're all in the back nine.
There's a lot of mileage on that body for Okada, and that is Kenny. Yeah, because if you work 5 years in New Japan, it's like you work 10.
Exactly.
And that's something that everybody, oh, well, why is this person, when they went to WWE, they were broken down? It's like, well, this is why. Like, Nakamura is not the same that he was in New Japan, because it's just like, by the time he got to WWE, it's like, well, he's pretty much almost cooked. He can't do that anymore. Like, that's why he's kind of, they always considered New Japan, AEW, a lot of these companies like Ring of Honor, that was considered your, your art. Like, this is your artwork. This is where you're doing the stuff that you love and appreciate and things like that. And the WWE was considered the money work. That's where you're doing it for the big check and things like that.
I think lately, though,
that's changed. That perception, I think, has changed.
I don't want to say it's changed, though. I think it's different. I don't want to say it's changed, but it's definitely different. It's a different atmosphere than it was, and obviously it has been since the old man left. We all know who that is. I don't need to say his name, but you look at guys. No, you
need to thank me every time, Mac. You need to thank me for creating Hulkamania. You need to thank me for creating WrestleMania. You need to thank me for being able to give you the gift of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Roman Reigns. You do it, you son of a bitch. You thank me. You give me what I deserve. You give me the appreciation that I call for. Damn it.
When your own estranged wife does not invite you to your Senate hearing, but invites your daughter, your son, and your stepson, I think that speaks enough volumes.
I don't know if that wouldn't exactly be Vince's scene either.
No, it wouldn't.
Like the last, the last, you and I both know before all this stuff even started, with what he's dealing with currently. Let me just say that. Which, by the way, the federal investigations have been dropped on that.
Yep, we talked about that
as of recent. Yep. We talked about it last week, but that needs to be kind of restated again. But also considering the fact of the steroid trial, the avoidance of a Senate request after the Chris Benoit situation, the last fucking place that Vince McMahon ever wants to be in is even in the Senate chambers. I don't think it has anything to do with, like,
I think it does to a certain extent, but I get what you're saying.
There are ghosts of the past that he really doesn't want to revisit when it comes to that.
Yeah. My point, however, though, in saying all of that is look at Penta. Penta's still wrestling a very similar style to what he was wrestling already. Are things maybe a tad bit slower? Yeah, sure. But he's still able to do his art. And I think if you look at guys now, like you're mentioning, like your Kenny Omegas, like your Okadas, like others, I think he'd still be able to pull it off. Right? Looking at a guy like Ospreay, same thing. Looking at other guys that are there, I feel the same way. But there's this mesh of young guys and I'll just say grizzled veterans that I think creates this weird kind of dynamic, and he's gonna have to pick which one he wants. Does he want to go the WCW route of I'm gonna bring in all these former WWE guys that are probably past their prime, or does he want to go a much more younger route, like what he had with his pillars, with MJF, with Darby Allin, with Jack Perry, God forbid, and others that he brought in that were not WWE guys. And he's going to have to start to look at that because those were the guys that people wanted to watch because they were the new breed, this new era of guys that were not in WWE. Where in WWE, you had guys like Roman who had been there over 10 years, Seth Rollins, over 10 years. You had Brock Lesnar, John Cena, The Rock, who just kept coming back and forth between being there and not being there. You had all these different dynamics, and in 2019, let's be real, and this is one of the articles that I saw this week, 2019, the product sucked. This is why AEW started, to be that alternative, to be something that objectively did not suck. Now you have these roles reversals where WWE, objectively, you can maybe argue is cooking, depending on your point of view. And AEW is in the completely reverse spot where it's like, they're maybe not flinging dog shit at Roman Reigns, but they might as well be flinging dog shit, period, because it's what it looks like for the product right now.
It was, 2019 was going back to it. That there's a reason why I kind of gave, looking back on it retrospectively, how I have to kind of give a lot of the podcasters from that time when they kind of joined up with the AEW train very early on. And they kind of rode that hard as more a, I'm excited for this. It's kind of because they were beaten down, but they were beaten down even before 2019.
Yeah.
2019, I feel like was the cement floor. That was pretty much was the last straw of. It was so bad. And I don't blame 2020, even part of 2021, because of COVID. Like, that wasn't their call. They did what they could. Did I love the Thunderdome? No, but they tried. And that's really all I can say.
They were going to
because
throw anything that would stick at that point.
They tried. And I can't look back on that era as 2019 was worse, mind you. And that's because they had full crowds, but even though it just fucking sucked,
shit,
everything
though,
they did, it just, they were literally in quicksand from almost like outside the gate, out of the gates, and they just kept falling and falling and falling and falling, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and it just when you think maybe they're gonna figure this shit out, they'd just make a horrid decision like a week later, and that was the year. And I would watch AEW and notice how good the product looked and how they could really, even though I noticed flaws early, I was telling people, I'm like, I don't know if this is sustainable. Because that was my number one thing. And I ate a lot of shit for a lot of years. Because I kept telling people, I don't know if this is sustainable. Because you're going too hard. You go too hard, too fast. You're going to burn out the audience. And it's no longer going to be, this is another 5-star banger because you saw it last week. You saw it the week before. You saw it the week before that. You saw it the week before that. And after a while, people were just going to be like, yeah, they all seem the same to me. And I think they've been at that point now for probably 2 years. And I think that that's part of the problem. That is part of why they are now facing an identity crisis. And I don't know if they're ever going to get out of it. I don't know if they're ever going to figure it out. But I don't also know if New Japan's ever going to figure it out. There's a lot of promotions right now. And I said that about TNA for like 10 years. I don't know if they're ever going to figure it out. And now I'm looking at TNA and I'm just like...
TNA is like the little engine that could, man.
You can't kill them.
You can't.
You just can't. I thought they were dead. In the last 15 years, I've thought the TNA was going to be out of business probably 7 or 8 of those years.
At least.
Out of the last 15 years, 7 or 8 of those years, I was just like, that's how much they teetered. But the last 5 years, because I'm like, after COVID, I was just like, okay. Because Anthem bought them. I'm like, maybe Anthem will pull the plug. And now they're working with WWE, so it's just like, yeah, their status is kind of sustained now. Because now they got a check. Like, they're getting a check. And now they're going to be able to sustain themselves and be be self-sustaining. Also be able to, and I know people are just like, well, their ratings haven't really fluctuated. Do you know how many affiliates actually carry Access? It's not many. Like, it's not like they're available, like, even when WWE was on USA Network, or even CW for that matter. It's just, they don't have what I would call the reach. I believe they're on Charter, or Spectrum. What am I talking? Dating myself now. Spectrum, but I don't know if they're, like, regularly available on other affiliates. I don't even know if UTV has them, for Christ's sake, because they're an option now. But, you know, I know of Access. My dad watches Access. I used to watch New Japan when it was on Access. And so they're able now, though, with the WWE deal, to be self-sustaining. And also probably get an income in, because they're actually doing better attendance numbers than some of the AEW shows that have been having recently. And for TNA to say that 5 years, if you told me 5 years ago that was going to happen, I'd probably be laughing hysterically. Because even though I wasn't the biggest fan of, the reason why I think out of the gates that I wasn't a AEW major supporter is because Tony Khan was an unknown to me. He was an unknown entity. I didn't know who this person was, and I kind of needed that time to kind of figure out what his thought process was going to be. And I figured out quick what his thought process was going to be, but at the same time, he was making mistakes, but it worked because nobody cared, because it was better than what Vince was doing. He did make some mistakes early on, but also I think he had somebody too that was behind him production wise and was organized and understood it, and that was with Cody. Cody probably did a lot of the magic in AEW's success those first couple of years.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like when Cody left, that was the downturn.
Yes.
At least
that started the
noticeably.
fall. That was the first I don't know. It was like when Lehman Brothers fell. It's like, okay, we're not at the point yet, but we're close.
I
And then
think that's
subprime
exactly
mortgage
what it was.
fails.
You know,
And then subprime mortgage fails, and you're like, oh fuck, we need a bailout. Like that's kind of where they were. But that was kind of the warning sign of just like a friend of mine called it when he heard Cody was leaving. He's just like, I wonder if this is going to be a canary in the coal mine situation. And
shit.
that I feel like has aged extremely well, that comment, because you just saw how it didn't even take a year. And then you knew that fall, that famous Labor Day press conference, you're just seeing a guy that I have never seen somebody like, because I had seen Punk in 2013, 2014 in WWE, and he looked fucking miserable. He was a dejected human being. And I could understand why he wanted to be out by that point, because there were creative problems even back then. You know, that's why when everybody's just like, well, how 2019 was terrible. Yes, it was. But there were also a lot of terrible moments before those 5 or 6 years too. Like, that just sucked.
I think
him leaving was terrible.
That they were not as noticeable, or that they were fewer and further between. Whereas 2018 and obviously 2019, like we said, it was hard not to see them at that point.
2011 and 20.
Go ahead.
2011 and 2012, they got away with a lot because they had The Rock and they had CM Punk.
Yeah.
And they were able to get away with a lot more and bad creative. They still had The Undertaker too. They still had Triple H that was poking his head in and out. So you had guys that people cared about and people still gave a shit about. But the problem is that one guy, they never really wanted to make the guy. You had another guy that was only there part-time, and then you had 2 guys that were in the twilight of their careers and were lucky to have 2 or 3 matches a year. So that's where you were at. And the guy that you wanted to make the guy, people were sick of at that point. And so that was the predicament they were in. And then when you didn't have Cena, you didn't know how to produce Roman Reigns, you didn't have CM Punk, you didn't have The Undertaker, you didn't have Triple H. You had dog food with Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin. And you had Seth Rollins being disqualified in a Hell in a Cell match for using a fucking oversized mallet against Bray Wyatt. Like, this is what we dealt with.
I think you saw the same article that I saw. If you're saying that shit,
You saw?
Yeah.
No, it's just I don't even need to see the article. I just remember this shit.
No, I know, but it was
because I remember, I remember that Hell in the Cell match, and this was right after the first Dynamite episode on TNT, and me just thinking to myself, they're not even they're going to hand this fucking thing to them.
Yeah.
That was my thought process. I'm like, they are going to hand this fucking mantle over to these guys because they just don't give a fuck. Because they had just signed the Fox deal, and then, of course, you had the Kofi Kingston incident, which was on their first Fox episode, which there were people mad about that. And I knew what they were going to do. I just didn't think it was going to be an intercepted and F5 and it's within 6 seconds. I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know Cain Velasquez was going to come out, and they were pretty much going to treat Cain Velasquez like the Ultimate Warrior in 1998 WCW.
Oh my God.
Where we're going to bring him in so that way he can appease fucking Brock Lesnar's ego. That he couldn't beat him in real life, so Vince had to book it so that way he could beat him in a fake fight. Come on. And I love Brock, but that was the biggest fucking inflation of someone's that was, how much did that cost? How much did that cost you?
Sure, it cost a lot.
How much did you have to pay Cain Velasquez to come in and do the job for Brock Lesnar? And then they never used him again.
Because it sucked. That was the problem. It sucked.
Oh God!
I remember they thought about it again a couple of years later, and like they teased it, and then people were like, "Oh, it's gonna happen again! It's gonna happen again!" And then nothing. That was it. It was just that one time only, and then he came back for like a cameo, and everybody got all excited for God knows what reason, because the first match was not fucking good. It was just a mess.
It's just all they did for that first year was give everybody in the world reasons to go check out AEW. And I feel like that was a major portion of why they were successful at the beginning, why they had a lot of good faith from the audience. Because people were just like, I'm tired of watching Vince and his bullshit. I'm tired of watching the same fucking deal bullshit, the same camera cuts with Kevin Dunn every week. And that's why I see and understand why people grasp on to AEW. But at the same time, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, he's going to start making mistakes and people are going to just not deal with it. And they're going to start getting pissed off. And he got away with it with some. And he didn't make many. But also at the same time, I would be fair to say he did not really make any noticeable or major mistakes for the first 2 or 3 years in that company. The first one was letting Cody go. That was a major one.
Yeah.
And also but that 2021 year, the 2022, the big ones for him was not signing Cody and letting the Elites and CM Punk situation get to the point that it did. And because he hasn't recovered from either incident, and this is now 3 years ago.
Well, I don't think it's just those instances by themselves. I think those are the trigger or flashpoints, but I think when you look at some of the other stuff that he's done, like the whole, MJF Adam Cole thing, like that started off red hot. It was red hot for months, and then it just petered out because of the whole Devil situation. And then when they're both back and healthy again, together again, they just I don't even know how to describe it. It was bullshit. The whole Death Riders thing is dumb, right? Like it's just terrible. Holistically, it's dumb.
Terrible.
Like we talked about Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, Daniel McDanielson. Like, I get it. You want to put the belts on him. You want to give him the last ride, as it were, as champion. And I'm all for that. But the way they went about it was just really dumb. And it made you really feel bad for him because you knew of his injury history. Bringing in other people that you objectively have maybe a 3 month, I can't even call it an arc, but some 3 months, and then you don't do anything else with them. Like Julia Hart is the perfect example as TBS champion. You put the belt on her, she is improving day in, day out, whether it's prior to being champion or after, and then you relegate her to Ring of Honor? What?
Yeah.
Like, all these decisions that he has made over time, ever since arguably losing Cody, being in that flashpoint, like I mentioned, it's just everything he's done after that has not really worked. It's like, okay, this works for a little bit, but I'm going to throw a curveball here, and the curveball leads to like a home run. And it's not for your team anymore. It's for the other team. But I know we've talked a lot about AEW. We talked a little bit about WWE. I know you want to talk a little bit about NXT as well.
Well, the arrival of Moose finally occurred. We're talking about Moose showing up. Now the Forbidden Door has been completely knocked down. Somebody that I think a lot of people, including myself, have all kind of wondered about Moose because of his look. We all said, wait, can you imagine now if he goes to WWE? Well, now he's in the system. And they're going to be using him. And they put him already. I mean, he's the X Division champion, which also is one thing. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, the X Division was kind of like not a cruiserweight, quote unquote, but it was because Samoa Joe was X Division champion, but more or less X Division matches back then were kind of they were different. They were more they were something else. Early TNA with those matches were incredible, especially like 2004 through like 2008, 2009. They were second to none. But he's the X Division champion, and now he's challenging Hope. Like what? Like I'm not against it at all, because you're talking about somebody that has been kind of fantasy booked now to be in a position to be, all right, well, why don't we have them have this happen? And we'll just get it there. But he's I guess his first matchup. Who's he facing this week? I haven't looked, but I know he's making his official in ring debut.
Apparently,
this
Cora
week.
Jade was also on TNA tonight. By the way.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep, I just also reported on the Pro Wrestling World Facebook page. I just noticed that. So who are we talking about? Moose.
We're talking about Moose, correct?
NXT. I don't even know the date for next week. What is it? 225, 26, 25. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I completely forget. I don't remember who he's supposed to fight. Here it is.
I know he's
Moose
supposed
to
to make his
defend
debut.
X Division title.
Wesley?
I don't think so.
Wesley is the
Actually, no. I looks like I have to read this whole article to find it, but it looks like it might be Lexus King.
okay. Oh, I think Wesley is going to be facing Ricky Saint, which is Ricky Stark's new gimmick name. Which I saw people getting pissed off about that. Which
what do you want, right? Like he wasn't going to keep the name.
On.
He wasn't going to keep the name.
He wasn't. He wasn't.
And it will be Lexus King. I'm reading further down. It looks like Lexus King.
That should be pretty good
for the X Division title. Which I'm sorry, but I love Lexus King, but I'm just gonna destroy him. Oh man,
it's like, sorry, you're gonna die tonight. Like it's just this is where
Gemini, you're gonna die twice.
No sex in the champagne room.
There's no sex in the champagne room. Oh man, yeah,
Gemini, you're gonna die twice.
Oh man, old school Chris Rock was the man. But yeah, I've wanted Moose when even before this TNA deal, right, where it was just straight up like individual package deals, like Jordan Grace before she officially signed, like Joe Hendry when he fought All Ego Ethan Page months ago. I wanted Moose, and finally he's on NXT TV, and I could not be happier because he's gonna be a bulwark just like the other two were for them. And I hope this opens the door even further than it was prior. Like I mentioned, we're recording on Thursday. TNA is happening right now. Sorry, I mentioned that Elijah is at TNA, which everybody thought he was going to Ring of Honor. Who the hell knows at this point? But also from NXT, Cora Jade is there as well. So I hope that this collaboration keeps going as strongly as it currently is, because you're going to see a lot of different talent come in. But I don't know. I just, the people that are complaining about the whole Ricky Starks turning into Ricky Saints, like, what do you expect? Seriously, just what do you expect? Like, he wasn't going to keep the name.
I don't hate the name.
But he wasn't going to keep Ricky Starks.
No,
like, listen, they even changed Brian Pillman Jr. to Lexus King.
Yes.
Like, what do you want?
Ethan Page got lucky, but that's because of the fact that Ethan Page was somebody that they were recruiting before he decided to go to AEW. And they wanted the Ethan Page look. They wanted the gimmick. And that's why he's been so successful in NXT. And I'm sure they're going to keep it going with him when he makes it to the main roster eventually. The fact is that, you know, Ricky, it is a good enough and a big enough star, in my opinion. Doesn't matter what his fucking last name is. He's going to be what everybody has seen him. It doesn't matter what the name is. It's the same thing with Gunther. It's like, yeah, I liked Walter, but I also like Gunther. The package hasn't changed. It's just the name's different. It shit happens, right? It's just, this is what they do. They've been doing it for years. It's not as stupid as when Vince was doing it, because Vince was just doing it for complete idiocy at some points. You know, it's like look what he did with Piper Niven, for Christ's sake. Dewdrop?
Oh God!
What the fuck?
Try to forget that happened.
Yeah, it's just we all want to just try to forget it, but at the same time, I need to be able to remind people that shit could be so much fucking worse when it comes to certain things.
There's so many out there that I just feel it's like you think of it this way, right? Like, what's in a name, right? It's a lot, right? Like, but at the end of the day, a lot of these names are subject to copyright, right? Especially the ones that WWE comes up with. If it's something where it's their real name, like, just, there was in the news lately, so I'll use them as the example, but the Hardy Boys. It's their names. Like they came over with it, they had it prior, they were able to keep it. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Technically not his name. He changed his name legally, though, so technically he could walk away with it if he wants to at this point, because that's his legal name now. Same with Warrior, God forbid, but still.
Fucking shit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That had to get
Oh
said.
my God.
I remember when he changed his name to Warrior.
You were literally in my head, because I was just about to be like, well, you could just name yourself Warrior.
Yep.
And it's just.
Yep. And trust me. Trust me. I
I
had a feeling it was going to get said as soon as I mentioned Steve Austin and the legal name change. I was like, Warrior.
The Warrior.
Warrior.
What's
your name? Warrior.
Oh my God. What a fucking asshole.
Hooray.
Like, it's just,
I know.
you have to, it's just, like, whatever I see, because one time I saw him on C-SPAN. Talking, of course.
Warrior.
And it just said Warrior. And I'm just like, on fucking C-SPAN, they have some asshole has to put Warrior in the text. He's just like, what's your name? Warrior. Like, no, for real. What do I have to? No, it's Warrior. What?
Oh my goodness. I just,
If I ever worked for that company and he was around, I'd just be like, what's up, Jim? Or fucking Hellwig. That's why I used to refer to him. I'd just be like, fucking Hellwig. Like, because it's just, oh God, yeah. I like the character, don't get me wrong. As I've gotten older, I have grown appreciation of the character, but as a human being, oh God.
Oh, shit.
He was a little batshit, let's face it. Come on.
Oh, no, he was. Yeah.
Distrucity? How is that even a fucking word? Distrucity.
Yeah, dude. I've selective memory when it comes to Warrior.
Distrucity, though. Come on.
I know. Hence the selective memory. I mean, listen. At the end of the day, though, it's tough, right? It's tough to sit there and to.
It's tough because he's your hero, right?
No, I'm not even talking about him.
Because you're a little warrior.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about just liking a wrestler and then the wrestler changing a promotion and not being able to carry the name over.
Did you have the tassels with the mask?
Fuck
You
no.
just like
No. No.
You just run around your house. You just with the fucking boombox tape of the Warriors music, and you just like you go into your mother's clothes hanger and you just shake it.
I mean, that I might have done once or twice, yeah. but sans tassels, obviously.
Yes.
I just, like you look at some of these guys, like Hogan was able to keep his name everywhere he went. And part of that is rights ownership and all that other stuff. Piper was the same, Warrior was the same, Angle was the same, Sting was the same. A lot of them were the same. But
did you go to your sister's? Like, did you get your sister's like scrunchies? Like, did she have neon scrunchies you could put on as wristbands?
I didn't do that. Come on now.
You're just walking around. You're going into the school every day. You're just like You're no selling kids. Like the bullies beating you up. You're just no selling the whole time. You're puffing out, and then your comeback is you just do those fucking shoulder tackles.
I did actually no sell a kid one time. It was kind of fun. wasn't anything to do with the Warrior, but I did no sell somebody one time. That was pretty funny. Kid tries to pick a fight with me in like 6th or 7th grade. I don't remember which grade it was. So he like throws me up against like, how they used to have like those like when you didn't have lockers or they had like closets if it was like cold out for like your sweaters and your jackets and shit.
Oh yeah.
Kid tried to like put me against like the rack of those and like push me into it and try to wrestle me to the ground, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're trying to do right now. Hey, try to hurt me or something. I was more trying to wrestle him to get him off me because it was just
you're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, and I'm like, are you trying to hurt me or something? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, just get off me. And like he got up all mad at me, and I just kind of like shrugged, like, okay, good for you. You got me on the ground. Good for you. Like, you want a gold star or something, kid? Like, anyway, the rookie star thing to me is overblown. I get it. It's not the name that he had. It's not the name that you might want for him. But what are you supposed to call him? Like Ricky Stank?
Just call him Ricky.
Ricky Stank.
Look, everybody, it's Ricky. Ricky!
You call him Ricky.
It's Ricky.
You call him Ricky Stamp.
Because I'm not booked.
Because he's not booked.
I can so see Ricky Starks just going out there on a trampoline and like he's
Because
just
I'm
like,
not
well,
booked.
I'm 50 now, but I could get the call tomorrow. I got to stay in shape. I eat right.
Because I'm not booked.
That's what makes me on the mat. So, like, Dennis Stamp would be actually a perfect Seinfeld character, like an absolute perfect Seinfeld character. The exterminator that's also a professional wrestler on the side. And so Jerry has to call him one day for like an extermination, but he can't get a hold of him because he's outside training on the trampoline with his weights because
Dennis Stamp is the principal from Billy Madison.
Oh my God, you're right. No, you're right. He's just the whole time he's out there. I never know when my next match is gonna be. What the fuck?
Because I'm not booked.
Dennis.
He got so pissed. He wasn't involved. Like he's mad. He's just like, I could have a great match with Dory Funk Jr. And I keep reminding him. I'm like, you know who wrestled Dory Funk Jr.? Rob Van Dam. Who I'm sure Dory Funk Jr. I'm sure that conversation between Dory Funk and RVD went like this. RVD goes to him and it's just like, I got a great idea, okay? So I do a split-legged moonsault, and I also do like a spinning back kick. So I want you to hold the chair. Dory Funk probably just looked at him and said, all right, kid. So I'm going to do 3 scoop slams in a row. We're going to do an arm drag. And then we're going to go on a rest hold for about 2 minutes. But no, I want to do my split-legged moonsault. We're not doing that shit, kid. I'll move. Like, but still, he'd have at least somebody that could bump for him. Where Dennis Stamp and Dory Funk Jr., it's like you cannot go up against Dory Funk Jr., who is in his 60s. And, you know, you're talking about a guy that was NWA champion in like the late 60s, early 70s. Like, we're talking, you know, we're talking over 50 years ago. So it's just, and this is 1997. It's just like, oh, I'm going to be, you're 50 and he's like 50, 60. Like, he's got to go up against somebody that's younger, for Christ's sake. Somebody that can bump around for him and also get people engaged in the match. That, yes, there's an older audience that know who Dory Funk Jr. is, but there's a lot of kids in the crowd that are not going to know who the fuck this guy is, but they're going to know who Rob Van Dam is. And no one's going to know who Dennis Stamp is.
Because I'm not booked.
I just, man, I don't know. Just,
Yeah. The thing with NXT lately, though, it's like, I actually saw this article today too, and I think it's so telling. I think at this point, NXT probably has the strongest women's roster in wrestling.
They're at that point. I mean, they have a real top heavy. They have 3 right now that you can make a solid argument are the best female wrestlers in the world.
I think all 3 would probably be in the top 10, if not the top 15.
Yes, I mean, and that is extremely top heavy, and also the fact that it's going to be hard for them to kind of. I mean, they have these 3 now ready, are going to be there for a little while, and then you're going to move them up, and then you have so much in the women's side on Raw and SmackDown that you're just like, how in the fuck? Even though. You know, I look at Monday Night Raw, and they really don't have their shit together there. Especially to the rumors that have been coming out with what WrestleMania is going to look like. So it's tough. It's really, it's tough. It's tough the fact that it's extremely top heavy on NXT right now because they do have a very strong women's division, but I look at the rest of the women's division on Raw and SmackDown, and it's just like, well, you got to get some help eventually, right? Like, I mean, I know Roxanne Perez is going to be headed up there, at some point.
I think, you know, we talked about this before, and it's been, you know, after their most recent PLE for NXT, I think that you're going to see 2 splits. One is Roxanne and Cora Jade, which pretty much already happened, but I think that's a stand and deliver match. I think this other one on the men's side is probably a stand and deliver match because I don't think it's going to make WrestleMania, and I think it's Waller in Theory.
Right.
Because Waller in Theory had a triple threat match against Obafemi for the NXT title at the pay-per-view.
Yes.
And I'm just like, what is going on here?
I was when I saw that was the main event, I was just like, oh.
Actually, it wasn't. It was co-main event, technically. It was before the women's match.
Oh, correct. But it was still high enough on the card. I was just like, oh, they're going with that then. Like, all right.
Yep. And both of them cost each other the match, so I'd be shocked if it doesn't come up into play. If it doesn't on, you know, Raw or SmackDown, then it definitely should on NXT. It should be a PLE, but I don't think it's going to make Mania, honestly.
I have some breaking news. The Rock will be on SmackDown tomorrow.
Oh, great.
I wonder if it will be his, what that will be leading to, only because of the fact that, so It has been reported today that Dwayne Johnson is now going to be in a massive, massive movie. And when I mean massive, it's the people that are going to be behind it. It not only has Emily Blunt, who they've worked together before. I think they did those Jungle Cruise movies or whatever the fuck they were.
That was it.
Okay. And Leonardo DiCaprio, and they are going to be in a Martin Scorsese directed movie. And I remember saying to back in the group chat, I said, he'll finally be in a movie that's good. Like, because you're now dealing with Martin fucking Scorsese, and also he's not going to be able to really pull the same bullshit that he has before in the past of trying to take things over, because again, you're dealing with Martin fucking Scorsese. I hope for his sake he shuts the fuck up and he listens and not tries to take over and make it again all about himself, because that is going to harm his career big time, because there are just some certain people you don't want to fuck with, and Scorsese is fucking one of them.
How old is
but I wonder
Scorsese
what
now? Jeez.
He's got to be in his 80s. But you know, if he does well for himself.
Oh yeah, no, I just
like, you know,
82.
Okay. I follow his daughter on social media, but he's because it's funny because she's but it's funny because she'll like do he'll like do like little skits and that type of stuff with her, which is quite hilarious. And Scorsese is one of my all-time favorite directors. He's done some of the best movies I have ever seen and some of my favorites ever, including Goodfellas and The Departed. And this is supposed to be of that same ilk. So I have full faith that this project is going to be good, as long as The Rock does the right thing and doesn't act like The Rock. But he will be on SmackDown tomorrow.
So the producers for this movie are Scorsese, The Rock, Blunt, DiCaprio, Bilton, who I believe is the writer of this. Yep, Nick Bilton is the writer.
Okay.
Danny Garcia, who is The Rock's ex-wife, Lisa Frichet, and Rick Yorn. So unfortunately, he's going to have a little say in the movie still. But it is very much being likened to Goodfellas and The Departed, as you mentioned, of the Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah, so it's going to be like Hawaii Five-0, except rated fucking R.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which, you just have Jack Lord coming out and just being like, book him, Dano. That's not going to work.
I don't know how far along this process is, though, is the only thing. But to your point, maybe they pull a trigger and say, hey, listen, if you're going to be locked up for the next year or so in this project, why don't we get you in now? And
could this, him showing up now, that does create that buzz of like, is it going to have something to do with him going? Is it going to have to do with WrestleMania? Which, in theory, it could. I don't know. I don't know what. Yeah, the question is, are you doing? Because you run out of bullets because of the fact that you don't know if he's going to be available after next year.
Yep.
But yeah, he says that he's announced it on his social media. WWE has announced the final boss returns tomorrow. So I don't know exactly if that's going to have to do with what exactly that's going to have to do with. I have no idea if it's going to be a plug, if he's coming out to plug his projects. I have no idea if he's trying to book something for WrestleMania. Because we're headed towards another WrestleMania season where,
2 months
yes,
away now.
we know what's going on, but still, we're 2 months out, and a lot of things can happen up until then.
Well, listen, man. I'll say it this way: he is also a member of the board. He can do
Yes,
whatever
he
the fuck
is.
he wants.
He could do
So
whatever
if he
the fuck
wants to turn it
wants.
around and say, you know what, Elimination Chamber is actually going to start as a triple threat match this year, he could fucking do that.
It has been announced, and also that TKO right now is one of the most valuable entities as far as entertainment is concerned. They are evaluating it higher than like the NBA and Major League Baseball at certain points.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, definitely the NHL too. I think it has to fight with like the NFL. The NFL is way ahead of it, but as far as the other major sports are concerned, they're doing. I mean, I did not expect any entity that this was going to work out when the sale went through, because I was completely concerned that it was just like, oh, they're just going to put all their resources to UFC, and it's just like they haven't. They have kept WWE going. They have made it, as they have kept it the way it is, really. But they have made it so much fucking better. Like everything just feels fresh. Everything feels new. Everything, presentation wise. I mean, the Royal Rumble this year was so easy to follow. And they had statistics. They had ticker at the bottom to kind of give statistics and things that were going on in the matches. They have made it so much, I think, user friendly for the casual wrestling fan that, there's a lot of people that I saw this week that were just like, there's no such thing as casual wrestling fans anymore. It's like, it kind of is. Like, it's just, they're always going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is. It's so much more accessible now is the thing, and I think that's
really is.
probably what you were kind of leaning towards when you started saying that. But it's the accessibility that drives it, and like you and I have had this conversation both on the show and off the show, where it's like, we look at all those years that we spent watching the product on pay-per-view and how much money we spent.
Oh God!
Now it's like, what, like
so much money,
$80-$90 for the year to get the PLEs, if that.
Pretty much, yep.
And versus if this was 10 plus years ago, you're paying $80-$90 for WrestleMania, and that's it. like people forget that. So I think it's very easy now, and we talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago too, about social media hits. It's very easy to go read the results of a show, maybe catch some glimpses on YouTube or other social media platforms, and then watch the PLE when it comes out.
Right.
Plus, the PLE, most of the PLEs have their promotional vignettes where it goes through the entire feud anyways. You don't really have to be paying attention half the time.
You don't. And I think that's they do that in UFC too. I mean, They do the same type of production. So I mean, there is a lot of crossover in the production of it that I'm sure that, but they're some of the best. I mean, as far as production goes, as far as just everything just feels a lot more streamlined, a lot more smoother. Nothing is, I think, half-assed, and nothing is, they take time with the creative, and that, I think, has made everything in the presentation-wise so much better. And I hate it to be like another pro WWE thing, because there are a lot of things in WWE I don't like going on right now. But at the same time, it's like There's a lot of give and take with it. Do I like a lot more than there is? Is there a lot more positive than negative? Absolutely. Is AEW in a position where there's a lot more negative than they are positive? It's been like that for so long. And it's just, do I want them to get out of their hole? Do I want them to get out of their hole? Yes, I do. Do I think they will? I don't know. I really don't. I don't think they are. I think they are what they are, and they're just going to continue to be that way. And they're just going to keep either going down or they're just going to sustain themselves because they've kind of bottomed out where they are, like ratings wise. And I mean, they're not losing anymore, but still at the same time, they're not gaining anything either.
But that's the thing, right? And that's the thing we talked about. Like, I know people want to talk about, you know, the Netflix thing and all this other stuff. And, you know, listen, when we talk about WWE, we don't always include all the numbers. We can't. No. It's impossible because it's only going to factor in the Nielsen ratings, which are the ratings that happen in that moment live. Plus, it only factors in the people that actually have those boxes to record that data. But typically speaking, you know, we're not checking out the people that are going back on Hulu the next day to rewatch it because they didn't record it. Typically speaking, you know, the Netflix ratings aren't including day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 watches, or the people that go back in and binge watch before pay-per-view or PLE, because they want to do that. And it doesn't include later on for the Peacock watches when a month later SmackDown and Raw get added to Peacock. It doesn't include any of those watches. So I feel like when we talk about the ratings and stuff, it's a little bit skewed, but for AEW, it's never going to include the max ratings. It's never going to include that data. So, you know, do we know verbatim if one way or the other, if there are more views now? No, we don't. We only know the ratings that we get, just like I just mentioned for WWE. But at the same token, like, you have to look at it from the perspective of this, right? Even if you factor in those ratings, the numbers are the same. You're not increasing your views week over week. And I know the people that are saying, well, dude, you just said that those ratings don't matter. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they don't get factored in. And that's the problem. You're going to lose money either way, right? For me, I have to look at TNA. I have to look at Ring of Honor. I have to look at, you know, New Japan, like we talked about earlier, and say that those ratings are steady. And there's nothing wrong with steady ratings, but when you just signed a new media rights deal, they kind of do matter.
Here's the perspective that people need to realize, because people are like, oh, Netflix got screwed. Netflix is going to enter negotiations with the NFL for getting
But how do they get screwed?
Well, because the ratings keep going down. But this is the point that I'm trying to make is they're about to enter negotiations with the NFL to try to get weekly games during the NFL season.
Yep.
They're going to pay a lot more to the NFL per year than what they're going to do than what they're paying for WWE. And they know consistently that WWE is going to present content for them 52 weeks a year, either 2.5, 3 hours an episode. They're going to do it every single week on Mondays, consistently. They're going to pay the NFL probably 6 or 7 times per year what they are the WWE, and they're going to be able to get games for 18, 19 weeks a year.
I just think that if anybody says that Netflix got screwed, they're an idiot. I'm sorry.
They didn't.
They didn't. Like, we had discussed this in the past. I think we've also discussed it on the show, honestly, as well. But if we haven't, we'll do it real quick right now. There's always going to be a drop-off. Always. Right? Whether it's a show, whether it's consistent content like WWE, it doesn't matter. You're always going to get a drop-off because there are people out there that watch shows to talk about them at, like, they call it cooler talk, where you're on your break and you get a coworker and you're talking about a show. Everybody's talking about their show, so you go watch it too. WWE still is very much like that as well. You might miss something, but you read up on it. It's the same thing. But as I mentioned before, the thing with WWE being very new to Netflix is the people that have had Netflix for a while that maybe didn't watch wrestling are going to start to check it out to see if it's something they like. It will produce views. Are you going to still lose viewers? Yeah. Yeah, you will.
Yep.
Plus, week over week, you're going to have those people that are WWE fans that are going to say, hey, is there any differences here? And they'll watch it. You're going to have a consistent fan base that when it comes down to it, whether they do monthly subs recurring, whether they have gift cards, whatever else, that might keep those subscriptions just because WWE is now on their platform. At the end of the day, the ratings don't fucking matter. The subscriptions do.
Exactly.
It's way different for streaming than it is for regular television.
They know also that when they get the NFL, they're going to make their money back in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
The fact is that Netflix is now realizing that they would rather pay for other content than creating stuff in-house, because they almost lost their ass when they were creating these $100 to $250 million blockbusters or TV shows that no one was giving a shit about, and the ratings prove that, and they were getting panned critically. There were so many shows that was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. They just keep releasing. Like, there was a joke on South Park at one point of just like, oh, don't worry, we'll green light everything. And that's what it felt like they were doing. And now they just said, fuck it, we're just going to bid for IPs and we're just going to go with that. And this is what they did with WWE. This is what they did with the NFL.
The thing with Netflix that's so interesting is when you look back at it, right? Like it was that first prime kind of streaming service. So all these different shows that you would binge watch, you do it on Netflix. But so many over the course of however many years at this point have now gone back to the parent company, because the parent company now has its own streaming service. You look at Paramount as the prime example, right? Paramount, Peacock, those. I think Fox has one too, but I don't remember. AMC is another one too. It's just like
Fox has Tubi.
Right. Okay. I couldn't remember. I knew it had something, but like just so many things out there. And Max now, obviously, too. You had HBO Go, you had HBO Show, now you have HBO Max. Like, so many are just going back to the parent platform because they don't need Netflix anymore. They have their own platform now. So Netflix, and its bid to, still be relevant, obviously, yeah, it kept some of those shows, but it had to create some of their own. And you want to talk about bombs? Like, some of them are like single digits on Rotten Tomatoes. Just awful. Just straight up awful. And some of them are major blockbusters now, whether it be Stranger Things, The Witcher, Squid Game. Like, there are so many now that have been able to turn profits for them. But to your point, like, how many of them are they paying out the ass for because of the popularity now? So now the showrunners know that they get more money because of how popular the show actually is. Whereas, you're going to have to negotiate with WWE or the NFL or other sports franchises. And okay, great. But again, that's going to still increase your subscription base. It was the same with Prime. A lot of people pay for Prime just to get their stuff shipped sooner.
That's it.
They don't even need to worry about it. It still pays for itself. And The same can go in Prime and some of the shows that they have, like The Boys, for Christ's sake. Like, very, very popular show. Again, I'm sure people pay out the ass for this stuff, but it's just the ratings don't matter sometimes. What matters for the streaming services are the subscriptions. That's it.
I mean, it's the same thing with like Costco.
Yeah.
Right? People talk about the Costco food court. They talk about Costco, the fact that you can get like 4 dozen Snickers bars for like $30. They don't give a shit because they care about your subscription every year, every month.
Yep.
You know, that's all that matters to them. They want you to be the continuing member. They might take a loss on the hot dog. They might take a loss on the fucking pizza in the food court or the churro, whatever the fuck. But as long as you give your money every single month, they don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you keep going and shopping, they don't care. They just want that sweet money from your membership every year or every month. That's all they care about.
Listen, at the end of the day, if the weeks and months leading up to the first Raw on Netflix, and obviously they'd have to have the data to prove this, but let's say that they do, and the weeks and months or even the day of that led up to that night where Monday Night Raw is now on Netflix for the first time, and they showed any noticeable increase in subscriptions, that's not a failure. That's a success for them. They don't care if they pop 5 million. They don't care if they pop 1 million. They care if there is a noticeable increase in the subscription base on that platform due to Monday Night Raw. And then they care about, after that, is there a noticeable decrease as well? They're going to care about that too, obviously. But they'll care more about that than any type of decrease in actual viewership on one show or the other.
It has still remained in the top 10 every single week since it's debuted.
Yep.
And that's really, I think, the only metric that people should care about. And the fact of the matter is that enough people, I think, are watching it to be sustaining itself, but also at the same time, they don't care if you're watching in the end because they just want your money every month. That's it. Like, it's just, what Mac and I have been saying and repeating over and over again, they just want your money every month. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like, they got the ad revenue coming in. They don't care.
Yeah, it's just so different. It just really is. Like, I get it, viewership, blah 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 blah. But like, again, like the viewership, if you took a screen capture or any kind of capture, data capture, whatever, of Monday Night Raw views on a Tuesday morning, it doesn't mean shit. Because again, I can go in as a Netflix subscriber and watch it that day, Tuesday morning. By the way, as I've mentioned in the past, no commercials if you do it that way. Just saying.
Right.
And watch it all the way through. My view on Tuesday does not do anything for the bottom line of Monday's numbers. It doesn't. That's what streaming services is. It's the same if I logged into Hulu and watched it on Hulu the next day, because that's one place you could do that with Raw and SmackDown previously. It's the same thing if I go to CW and run it off the app, probably, instead of the television. It's based on so many different factors. The thing is, if I watch SmackDown tomorrow night, or whenever you're listening to this, and again, we record on Thursdays, my number might matter because that's regular cable. It's way different with a streaming service. And that's the thing, that when people say that, oh, well, I'm sure Netflix is pissed. Why? Netflix wants subscriptions. They don't care about the viewers. It's just...
They don't care.
I think it's so crazy that people make those arguments. It's just so different. It's a different business entirely. Do you think Triple H gives a fuck if one person watched the show? He cares about the money that he's making off of the Netflix deal. That's it. That's it. Are 50 million people watching, WrestleMania every year? Cool. How much money did we make? It's a business.
Exactly. Oh, we broke the gate again? Great.
Yeah.
We broke the gate again. Oh, that's great, honey.
Great.
Like, they don't care. They have their money from these TV companies. Vince was lazy about it. At least Triple H is trying to give the audience what people want. And it's working. It's working out, I think, for everybody. I don't know about you, my friend, but I have
Yeah, I'm gassed.
reached my limit. I am gassed. So we're gonna head out of here, folks. But thank you again for joining us here to get tonight and listening to us rant and kind of go over what we think is wrong with AEW and kind of the industry itself is just in a really weird place right now. It's like WWE is cooking really with gas, and then everybody else I feel like is just, other than like Impact is, or TNA for that matter, it's really kind of, you're kind of lost in the woods at the moment. But we're always going to be here to tell you what we think, whether you like to hear it or not. So sorry, folks. So thank you for listening to PW Talks. Be sure to check us out again on Spotify, Apple, and of course on YouTube under Diamond Podcasting Productions. Mac, you got anything left to say?
No, I think next week.
We'll finally do our predictions and preview of what the elimination
Chamber.
The good,
the bad, the ugly,
Boo-ran.
Hooray!
the boo ran.
Are we going to his house so we'd figure that
I
out?
have no idea. I was actually going to ask you later. I'm sure he's going to listen to this episode and be like, "Yeah, you're coming over."
You coming over, right? Yeah. Right.
I guess. Just make sure there's wings and nachos this time.
Wings and nachos.
And make sure there's enough Doritos this time.
Yes. Oh, yes. There better be. There's going to be another. I told that story recently to somebody again because I was so mad about it. Like that has been a consistent thing I've just gone on ranting about because I'm like,
Boo-ran.
oh God, I'm so mad. Just hate, yeah.
Maybe we convince him this time that maybe less people might be better. So there's actually
exactly.
enough food.
Stop eating my goddamn Doritos. Well, yeah, less people, so that way also we can actually get what we want instead of everybody just be like, yeah, we'll just go. It turned into a pop.
Hold on. That's because he got served before there was food. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
This time we need to get the food before we do any type of serving whatsoever.
Yes, exactly. And it was our stuff too. It's like, God damn it. It's like, not only did we catch you, not only did you smoke our stuff, but also you're eating my Doritos. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, dude.
we're not playing that game this time.
Oh, we're not doing that again. So, anyways, folks, thanks again for listening, and we will see you again next week to preview Elimination Chamber.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Boo-ran.